all have amazing goalies. St. Louis and LA, they will drop the puck tomorrow night. We talked about Mike Smith earlier, and we said that perhaps he was the most valuable player to his team out of any player throughout the league. Can Jonathan Quick make an argument that he might be that guy?
Oh boy, if it's not for his performance early in the season, the Los Angeles Kings definitely don't make the playoffs. He was the answer to all of their problems, and they had plenty, especially when it came to scoring. But this guy was just as solid as a rock throughout the early part of the year until finally they made the trade for Jeff Carter and their offense started to get on track. It was all about Jonathan Quick, and could he shut down the opposition most nights and win a game 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 at the most for the Los Angeles Kings. This was a terrific season for Jonathan Quick. Terrific first round for Jonathan Quick. No reason to think he can't do it well in the next round as well.
An underrated defense for the LA Kings. They've quietly gone about their business that they did in round one against a very talented offensive team in Vancouver. Willie Mitchell, I thought, was outstanding. Matt Green, good, strong, physical defender that brought it every night. They got a good mix there. Drew Doughty, of course, can jump up and add to the offense. Smart that Dean Lombardi moved Jack Johnson for Jeff Carter. That really changed the dynamic offensively for the LA Kings and made them a much more dangerous team. Quick
led the NHL in shutouts. Brian Elliott, all he did was lead the league in goals against average and save percentage. I'll bring Mike Smith back into the equation here also. If Mike Smith was the surprise story of the NHL, is Brian Elliott the next best surprise story this season?
I think he's even a bigger surprise. If you think about it, I think he was rated as the worst goaltender in the NHL last year. And what is he now? He's one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, brought in for $600 grand, and that's not a lot, folks, in hockey money these days, to be the backup. Stepped up and came up with some tremendous games early this season. When Ken Hitchcock arrived, he started to lean back to Yaroslav Halak. Elliott just wouldn't let him forget about him. He continued to battle. They got him re-signed, gave him a nice contract. He deserved it, and now it's paying dividends for the St. Louis Blues. He's a happy goaltender, but he's a goaltender that's performing at a very high level. No loss there when Halak went out. Elliott is as good as Yaroslav Halak, and that's great news for the St. Louis Blues.
For so much of the season, the Los Angeles Kings offense was absolutely anemic. It picked up late in the year. In the playoffs, it had its moments, especially shorthanded. Who needs to produce in this round?
Well, we know that Carter and Richards are going to have to get the job done, but it's got to be more than that. And Anze Kopitar, Dustin Browns, Justin Williams, they're a good line, and they should be able to produce. And they have produced, and they did produce against the Vancouver Canucks, especially Dustin Brown with some key goals at key moments in that series. There's Williams chipping the puck to Kopitar off to the races. Another big goal. So if they can get that balanced scoring from those two lines, they can be a very dangerous team. They're going to have to work extra hard against a stingy St. Louis defense to do it. But they obviously have proven against a team as good as Vancouver that they can get the job done offensively.
And you have to feel for LA if they're going to win this series. They're going to need that secondary scoring. Mike Richards, Jeff Carter, two guys that provided a big boost in game one against Vancouver. They were solid in a couple of the games in between, but they're going to have to be that much better against the St. Louis Blues. Ken Hitchcock was their head coach in Philadelphia for a couple of seasons. Very familiar with both players. Richards can be a difference maker, and Carter can score goals with the best of them. LA's going to need their offense if they're going to get rid of the Blues.
We talked about this when Ken Hitchcock took over because it was kind of a running joke. He took over, the team was 6-7. Power play was struggling, and he said, give me a day and I'll fix the power play. And we made the point that perhaps that day was right before the playoffs began because this power play has really picked up at times. It was absolutely deadly in the first round. Who sparked them on the power play?
Andy McDonald, and I thought Patrick Berglund was outstanding. They're going to need traffic in front of the net if they're going to beat Jonathan Quick, and Berglund was great in round number one, providing deflections and screens, and Andy McDonald was there to scoop up the loose pucks. He's a speedy little guy that really has a nose for the net, was unafraid to get to those high traffic areas, and you got to have an eye on him. Look at sneaking in. Berglund also adding there, jumping in and showing that he possesses some good ability to fire the puck in the slot area. I think both players were key for St. Louis. And the good news for Blues fans is there's a lot of other guys that can contribute offensively. TJ Oshie had one of the best plays in that series, setting up David Backes. Both of those guys have more offensive output than they demonstrated in round one. Lots of options for the Blues moving forward.
We expect two-way defenders to be integral in this series. When you look at St. Louis, it's an odd roster where there's They're deep. There's talent there. They maybe don't have a superstar on it. Do they have an emerging one in Alex Pietrangelo?
I think they do. I think, and another one in Kevin Shattenkirk, but I think Pietrangelo is the guy that they're going to go to in all different situations, and his offensive production picked up very much so in the last half of the season. But, you know, he does everything what quality defensemen are going to have to do, which is get in the way, block shots, make big plays, play your position solidly, play against the other team's top lines, top performance, and that's what Pietrangelo has done, and he will continue to do that against the Los Angeles Kings. He'll log big minutes, and they'll expect the production to be steady, as any key defenseman will be. So far, Pietrangelo looks like he's ready to deliver.
There's real toughness in his game, too. Real grit, hard-working guy and blocking shots and battling in the corners. So is Barrett Jackman, a guy in the St. Louis Blues defense that doesn't get enough credit. He's one of those guys that's just going to grind you all night long. The best offensive players for the LA Kings are going to see a lot of him. A willingness to drop the gloves, too. If you get in his face, he's going to back it up. A tremendous, hard-working performer. Not going to get a ton of offense, but he's going to provide that. And Roman Polak, you don't want to open up that door. Ken Hitchcock was right. Good toughness from him, too.
Talked a lot about Drew Doughty at the beginning of the season. He went through the season with a lot of pressure on him. Is he starting to perform?
I thought he was real good in round one, especially late. When the LA Kings needed a boost to try to get rid of the Canucks, it was Drew Doughty that provided it, taking the chance offensively and setting up Richardson for the tying goal in that game. Thought he was solid defensively, and he's got some good guys playing back on the blue line with him to help him in that department. His compete level was elevated. I thought he had some good one-on-one battles going up against the Sedins, and then coming up with some good offensive plays, including this one for Richardson there, lugging the puck, showing great confidence with the puck, and demonstrating some of those skills that we saw in his rookie season that kind of drifted away from him over the regular season. Great for the LA Kings and their fans to see he's starting to push it offensively. They need it from him.
That's absolutely right. That's a key part of the LA King approach. They've got to get offense specifically from special teams and from Drew Doughty. He's got to deliver it. He started too late in that series. Got to keep that trend together.
Bottom line is the LA Kings pulled off a massive upset in round one. Do they match up as well with St. Louis as they did with Vancouver?
I think so.
I do too.
I think so. The goaltending is set. I think they both have tough coaches, real hard-nosed coaches. They both play a defense-first style, and now that they both have some balance to their scoring, this is as even a matchup as any of these. Don't you think?
I do, and I thought Henrik Lundqvist said it best last night, talking about being the 1 seed versus the 8 seed. The reason the Rangers were the 1 seed is they were consistent all season long. The difference and the margin of difference between 1 and 8 is so minute. The difference between 2 and 8 in this series is the same. It'll come down to special teams, goaltending, and the team that stays disciplined and outworks the opponent. And obviously both of those teams have demonstrated they can do all of that. Up
ahead, we will shift our focus back to Nashville and Phoenix, and we will hear from the original Nashville Predator, David Legwand. He was the #2 overall pick by Nashville way back in 1998. His thoughts coming up next on NHL Live.